everybody. Thanks very much for joining us for this podcast. We're doing things a little bit differently this year due to COVID-19 restrictions. Obviously, we normally have a fans forum with Mark and Lee, but we're having to do it this way instead this time around. And firstly, thanks very much for everybody sending in the questions. It was really great to see the amount of questions sent in, and hopefully we'll be able to have a sort of a lengthy podcast here and give you some answers that you're looking for. Thanks very much for Chairman Mark Sawyer and Head Coach Lee Greenwood for joining me today. The way that we're going to do things is I'm going to ask a question to Mark and then a question to Lee, and vice versa until all the questions have been asked and we come to the end. Are you all right anyway, guys? Are you well and safe?
Yes, thank you, Stephen, and thanks for organising. Thanks for organising this event and giving an opportunity to reconnect with our fan base.
Yeah, all good, Steve. All good. Just a bit bored. Obviously, been sat at home a lot of time, but at least we're getting to talk a bit of rugby, which is good.
Yeah. So we'll firstly go on to the first question, which is for you, Mark. The first question is there any truth in the rumours that you are prepared to sell the club in order to raise the funds required to back Bradford Bulls bid for Super League? And are you planning to devote all your time to the Bulls at the expense of Dewsbury? And would that be as a chief executive or shareholder?
There's absolutely no truth in looking to dispose of the club or looking if there's any interest out there in the club. I've been at Dewsbury. This is my 20th year, and there's absolutely no intention, nor have us spoken to anybody to sell the club. And I was asked a similar question only yesterday: are we merging with the Bulls? Absolutely not. No intention whatsoever of it. Not an ounce of truth in it. And in terms of me devoting my time, I devote more time to Dewsbury than I do to Bradford at the moment. There's a lot of things going on, and as you know yourself, Stephen, and the staff have been on furlough, so that I myself have been steering it as best I can. And there's literally meetings every day about things, whether it's COVID issues, or whether it's leases, or whether it's talking to people who are involved in other ways towards the club. And the amount of time devoted is quite substantive, but at the same time I do it for one reason, and that's because I want to do it. And if I didn't want to do it, I would make it clear that I was looking to find somebody to take the club over. But this is probably the most difficult 12 months in front of us, never mind the 12 months behind. We're facing no distribution money from 22, and we must work hard. We also need to work hard with other clubs, and I've always been open and honest with my involvement with Bradford. It's highly unusual somebody running two clubs, because that's what I have been doing for the last 8 to 9 months for certain. But what has become apparent is that rugby league itself needs to be very solid and focused and united, particularly outside Super League, because we're facing a possible lack of funding totally from 22. I myself interact with clubs on a regular basis, whether it was a case of going round for a couple of hours to Featherstone recently just to have a look at their what they've done with their ground and income streams they're bringing in. And the involvement with Bradford opens doors to Dewsbury, just as Bradford's involvement with Dewsbury opens doors to them. But what I would say is that I'm intending to step down as chief executive as soon as COVID clears up a little bit more and I can appoint a staff structure to run Bradford. I've no intentions of being chief executive at Bradford any longer than the club needs me. But what I will say, and people need to understand this, if I'm involved in anything, I will not do half a job. So if I'm involved in trying to get Bradford back to Odsal or trying to get Bradford into Super League, I'll put 100% behind it. But I can assure fans this has absolutely no effect on the work I'm doing for Dewsbury, nor does any of the funding which I've got in at Bradford has come from funding which may have been put in at Dewsbury. We will continue doing exactly the same as I have. I might be guilty of not appearing on the internet making statement after statement after statement, because unfortunately that isn't me, and I've no intention of doing that. But behind the scenes, we're working, doing all sorts towards pushing Dewsbury forward in what are very testing times for businesses. And if there's one thing I would just like fans just to think, that it is I am giving 100% to Dewsbury, and will continue to do that. And hopefully we'll reap the rewards moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fantastic, Mark. First question to you, Lee, is the squad now complete, or are further signings still being considered?
No, I wouldn't say it's complete. We're happy with where we are. We've got 26 permanent sort of signings now that are ours. I was looking earlier, really, out of that 26, you're probably looking at 14, 15 of them that I'd say are proven championship players. Obviously, we've lost a couple. We lost Dom earlier on in the year, so we've done really well to get Reece Butterworth in to replace Dom. Obviously, just last week, Sonny Esselmont, we got a promotion at work, so he can't commit anymore to professional rugby. So we'll probably look to replace Sonny, I would have thought. These replacements could come within the squad. You know, we have been back training, albeit not to what we'd normally do at this stage, but there are some new signings that are showing up pretty well. We've also got a few trialists in training with us as well. So signings could come from within, but we are on the lookout, and there are funds available to do that.
And on the squad as a whole, then, you know, you think that we've definitely sort of improved, you know, in a couple of positions as well, then?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously we had to do a bit of a job this time last year. We'd let quite a lot of established players go that had been at Dewsbury for a while. People that had become accustomed with playing at Dewsbury in the Championship, and we had to do a bit of a revamp, bringing people in from League One and different places. And we obviously started off pretty well. The fans were quite happy with how we were going, and results were obviously sound as well. So there were no reason for us to change too much. And, you know, we haven't really. A couple of people decided to move on. They got good offers elsewhere, which is, you know, that's part of the game. We feel like we've probably replaced them. And it's just people that have chosen to sort of go by themselves for work reasons, like Dom and Sonny at the moment. So we feel like we're going to be stronger by the time the season comes round. There's still a bit of movement going on within the game at the moment. Obviously, there's teams to get promoted to different leagues. There's different coaches taking over at different spots as well. So that you see it now, there's quite a bit of player movement still going on. We're in a good position that we didn't have to do a big revamp like some other clubs have done. And other clubs have probably spent the money now, whereas we've kept what we started with this season pretty much, bar one or two, and there's some funds there available to us now. So we feel like by the time the season kicks off, we'll be stronger.
Very good. Mark, I think that you answered quite a lot for the second question in your first question, but I'll just read it out anyway. Number 2, for Mark, as far as Dewsbury are concerned, will you still be able to prioritise some of your time for the club, and what are your ambitions for the Rams for 2021?
As you say, Stephen, I've already really addressed that, but priority in terms of rugby is always with the Rams, and I'm able to run 2 clubs at the moment because of my circumstances with one of my businesses. But there'll be always a priority there with the Rams, and the main thing is we get ourselves in a solid financial position as possible come the end of 22 with us what looks certain to be getting reduced distribution money, if not nothing whatsoever. We've got to plan for the worst and hope for the best, as the saying goes. But that is the most important thing. What I would say with the playing budget is that the distribution money for next year for Dewsbury have dropped by 40-some thousand. The vast percentage of the reason for the drop is a clawback from Sky, if you want to call it, last year, and our contribution towards that. But it's also due partly to us dropping down one position on number of our league members, which we had a 4,400 deduction for that, and also as finishing 11th on crowds, because the distribution in terms of return on investment is based in blocks of 5. So the three things put together have resulted in us losing around 40,000 next year. But what I would say is that with how we've dealt with things and one or two other little income streams coming in there, and the help of furlough, let's not kid ourselves, that's helped us. We're in a position to keep the budget exactly where it was, so that Lee wasn't having to rely on match term only players. And just to give people an idea, we get 170,000 from the RFL, and the total spend on the players, including any hopeful match bonuses we have, is around $250,000. That doesn't include any coaching staff, any staff within the club, or any other running costs. So we get 170,000 from Sky, and we're going to be spending 250,000 on players, and we're managing to do that on the back of season ticket, gate receipts, bar takings, sponsorship, all been estimated, unfortunately, to fall for obvious reasons. The club's in a very sound position, and I intend to keep it there, particularly with this 12 months ahead. Anybody's support is welcome in these difficult times. I know some people will struggle to support the club at all, and some maybe don't even want to support the club, but I make the decisions on a day-to-day basis, as we know, and I'd like to think that over the last 20 years I've got more things right than wrong, and I've just got to steer the ship for what I think's best for our club.
I think that's the thing, Mark. People don't understand maybe how difficult the last 12 months has been, not just for our club, but for the whole sport in general, really.
Yeah, I mean, we do, Stephen, need to connect with our supporters more and more moving forward. Some people will have walked away from rugby league, and what I'd also like to do is, as I'd like to open this meeting, really, is just have a thought for a number of people who've passed away, some for COVID and some for not for other reasons.
Yeah.
Don't really want to individually talk about what one supporter but in the case of Jack Addy, that's a great loss for the club. He was somebody who was involved in encouraging me to come and get involved in taking over the club some 20 years ago, and he was one of the members who was facing losing his members, season ticket holders as they're called now, was one of the members who was in the process of going to lose his house because of the unpaid debts there, and he was a group who asked me to get involved. He got to a good age, but at the same time he'd be sorely missed.
Definitely. Lee, question 2 for yourself. Number 2, the squad as it stands now does look a strong one. Do you think that on paper the 2021 squad of players is stronger than the one you had built for 2020? And do you think we can really kick on this year to another level?
Well, like I said before, I think by the time the season comes round, I feel like we will be stronger. We certainly didn't plan for a couple of the guys leaving. I don't think they would have foreseen that. So we'll act on replacing those, as we have done with Reece Butterworth coming in for Dom. I think other sort of fringe guys that have moved on, we've replaced them with guys who've got real potential to do well for us. And like I say, by the time the season comes round, I feel like we'll be in a stronger sort of position, as in the 17 that take the field and also squad-wise. There's obviously no dual reg next year and no reserve rugby, so it's a bit of a funny one. It's a test for all coaches. You see a lot of people going with bigger squads, I'd say, because you've got a plan for always missing people at the moment through isolating or COVID or other bits and bobs going on. So we've done a bit of that. So we've got good numbers for our pre-season, but there's certainly a couple of areas that just lies a strengthen before the season comes round, and we will be looking to do that over these coming months.
I suppose that's added a different dimension to this season than any other, really, since you've been a coach. That not having that dual sort of relationship with a club, or being able to loan players as easy.
Yeah, well, look, I've only ever used one dual reg player, and that was last year with Matty G coming and playing at Halifax, and he did a great job. But I'm a massive fan of dual reg. I'm not anyway, so we were doing it to be competitive ourselves, and the agreement with Hull KR was working well for us. Some of our guys were getting game time with their reserves, and like I say, we got used to it when needed against Halifax. We brought a good player in.
Yeah.
But I don't really like the system as it is anyway. I think loans are much better, and certainly longer term loans, because you know what you're getting then. You sort of treat them as your player. You don't just think you're getting them for one game and that's it. And also, sometimes you play a team that's got 4 dual reg players in randomly on one given weekend, and it's a bit lopsided. So I think losing it is good anyway for the game, and I wouldn't be too fussed if it never came back. But I mean, if you're looking at other sports at the moment, you look at how Super League went. There was always players missing through having to isolate, track and trace, actually catching COVID themselves. And if that continues into when we start our season, then players are going to be missing. There's also the fact that our guys won't have played since last March. So you're looking nearly 12 months probably before they'll play. The chance of injury then is quite high, and I think everyone will need to be prepared for that. So I think squad-wise and numbers-wise, certainly we're going to need to cope with that, and that's the reason why we're looking at a couple more. But I think everyone will be the same going. We saw nearly probably 30 players, I would have thought. I think everyone will be looking to do that.
Yeah. Mark, number 3 for you, it's quite a lengthy one. We all know that the Rams aren't a cash-rich club, but do you think that the Rams are in a good enough position to survive after what will be a difficult 12 months without any real income, other than the pitch hire and curtailed car boot sale? And do you see all Championship and League One clubs surviving? And if not, do the RFL have a contingency plan in place for the competition?
Yeah, it's certainly a difficult 12 months moving forward, as we said. And in terms of survival, maybe there's 2 elements there. Firstly, are we going to win enough matches to stay in the Championship? Well, after seeing us play last season, I think the answer would be that we could have a little bit of confidence there. And what I would say that with a player or 2 returning and us having money within the budget to sign an odd player or 2, I think we could even say we'd be slightly stronger than last year. So I've every confidence in us staying up. And when we say we're not a cash-rich club, if we're to put the assets on the balance sheet, the ground, the pitches, etc., I think you'll find that we'll be certainly within the top 5 clubs, rugby league clubs, not just Championship clubs, in our balance sheet. And we've obviously got income in there to sustain moving forward. And I think the fortunate thing is that we've branched out into subleases and all-weather pitches and built up a car boot sale. That we have other income streams moving forward, and have every confidence that we'll survive. Whether all other clubs will survive or not is $1 million question, and I think it's fair to say that the RFL won't have a contingency plan because they don't even know what the Sky deal is now, or what sort of income there's going to be for clubs from 22. It's a very worrying situation, and it's one that people who are scholars of rugby league have seen. 2 years ago was on a committee of fighting against the breakaway and the splitting off of the deal with Super League. We pointed out many issues there, such as duplicating costs with different executives, and we felt that the sport would be worse off financially as a whole. And I think many people are coming a way around to that line of thinking. So I don't know if all other clubs will survive. What I would say is that I actively am involved with a number of clubs, particularly in West Yorkshire, where we talk on a regular basis. And I know that they're in a decent position moving forward, and just relying on the return to watching sport. But I don't think they mind me mentioning, that I talk on a regular basis with Featherstone, with York, with Halifax, and obviously even with Batley. Because as most people know, we've got a club called Batley just up the road, and we help them out as much as we can. But I've got a great love for rugby league, and I want to win every match possible for Dewsbury. But after that, I want to help other clubs and work with them. And if there's any ideas to make the game more sustainable, it'd be the best for us all. We want as many clubs as possible to survive, and some well-run clubs around our area. And I'm hoping that Bradford will be looked at in the future as being one of them. But my main position is chairman of Dewsbury, and that is my first club, just as everybody at Bradford, the supporters and everybody know that. But any work I'm doing with Bradford, as I've said earlier, is for the good of Bradford, and I won't do half a job. But I'm hopeful clubs will survive, but these are very difficult, taxing period of time, which needs every bit of focus on it to make the right moves, because if you make one or two wrong ones, you can be soon in trouble, unfortunately.
Yeah. Question 3 for you. What is the current state of fitness of the squad, and do we have any long-term injuries, recoveries, similar to what we had with Jason Walton last season?
To be fair, the general fitness is really good. One thing everyone's been able to do since sort of lockdown in March is get out there and walks and runs. Gyms have been closed, obviously, during this period, but you've been able to get out, exercise as much as you want in that respect. So, to be honest, looking back at our results from last pre-season, some people are actually fitter. They've come back fitter this pre-season than they did last. Obviously, there's no niggles, no injuries like that, because people have literally been doing no contact since March. So in some respects, some players have actually been better for it. Sometimes you just get 6-7 weeks off at the end of the season and you're back in again after a long season. So, like I say, in some ways, it's been more beneficial. Injury-wise, Jason Walton's returning to sort of full training now. So he was the long-term injury we had previously. Only ones in the squad now that aren't back in training. We've got Rhys Davis, who struggled a bit with a shoulder injury all through last pre-season, but did really well enough to earn a contract. Played a couple of games for Hull KR reserves, and he was a bit of a longer-term project, but he's managed to get an operation privately down in Wales. So he's gone back there over the summer, got an operation on his shoulder, and he'll be coming back to training soon without the niggly shoulder. Then he'll be fully fit to go. So that'll be a big boost for him. He'll be able to get into everything 100%. Everyone else really is fit. There's no long-term injuries, so I'd expect everybody, even Rhys there, to be totally fit. Touch wood, hopefully for some friendlies that we might play in early 2021, but we'll see about that. But yeah, fitness-wise, I'm quite happy. Nobody's way off where they were last season. Some people have actually come back fitter. Others are at a similar level, so we haven't lost anything in that respect. It's just not playing. You know, there's nothing that replicates it really. So we have been doing some training. Like I said, not exactly how you'd want and what you'd want to be doing at this point, but we have been doing some training. And we're just sort of picking the intensity up as we go along, really.
I think one thing to say along with the fitness, Lee, is that it's been really great to see, people like Sam Day and James Thornton mixing the fitness element in with obviously good causes, raising some money for charity at the same time. And that just shows the type of players that we've got at the club, as well as them wanting to obviously mix that in with the fitness side and keep the fitness up.
Yeah, well, we do have lads like that who don't mind just getting out and going for mad runs. Sam's a special case, and he really don't mind running a marathon every day. He's a bit of a nutter. But I've seen examples of it all across the game, to be fair. Rugby league is a bit like that. It's down-to-earth lads that play it and ladies. And they're the sort of person next door, aren't they? They're not untouchable, and they'll just get their hands dirty to do anything. So there's been some good causes to sort of help out and raise funds for this year. And people have jumped on that. But yeah, Sam's been tremendous for some of the things he's done.
Yeah.
And with other players that have been doing stuff either fundraising wise or just fitness wise. And I think we're lucky in that respect that we've got a lot of lads that look after themselves like that. It makes my job easier. I'm not having to get every single one of them really fit. They're coming back already fit, so I can concentrate on rugby stuff then.
And we added a fun element at the start of the first lockdown, obviously with the videos as well, which went down really well. And all the lads got well in with that, didn't they? Nobody said that they weren't going to do it, and that was something that went really down well, not just with our supporters, but rugby league supporters was nationwide really.
Yeah, they didn't have a choice really. Once they got nominated, that was it, wasn't it? You couldn't really not do it. We didn't know how long it was going to last. We'd have spread it out a bit longer if we'd have known we were going sat here still without playing. But it were a bit of fun. Kept the lads engaged, and I know some of the supporters liked it while there were no games to watch. So yeah, it were good. And like I say, the lads are good. We said that a lot last year. So every single one of them bought into it and did it. And they generally do that with anything we decide to do.
Yeah. Matt, question number 4 for yourself. Are there any local business people that you know of who would be prepared to invest into the club alongside you and perhaps bring financial and management expertise to help the club progress in the future?
I'm not really aware of any, to be honest. The amount, it's got to be, the love of the club really why you would invest in the club. It's certainly not an investment. And at this moment in time, I'd feel uncomfortable encouraging people to invest money themselves into the club with us having no guidance on 22. You could be asking people to invest in a club what's going to have a total lack of funding from 22. In terms of financial and expertise managing the club and what have you, we seem to do okay on that. Having won the Club of the Year award a number of times and managing to show modest profits each year in keeping it going. But it's always welcome to get advice from anybody who would be interested in stepping in. And we've got an advisory board at Dewsbury, and that might be the first step for somebody to come to and get involved if they've got time and they can commit to helping the club, whether it's on the commercial side, COVID side, or ground management side. I'd be over the moon if anybody was interested who had time to do that, and they can come on the advisory board. The more help, the better. But it's an extremely difficult time moving forward, and it'd be nice when we've got a little bit of certainty. But from the playing point of view, just following on from Lee's last question, I'm certainly looking forward to Jason Walton and Tom Garrett. Jason making his debut for the club because he had an injury which took a turn for the worse, which he'd picked up at his previous club. And certainly looking to Tom to come back. And I'm pleased to hear that his mother's made some recovery, because what people may not realise, and maybe Tom will be a bit embarrassed in me telling this, reason Tom asked to take out a few months was that he was caring for his mother, which he's a great lad, is Tom. I think he offers a lot, and apparently he's definitely fitter than I am at the moment, Lee's told me, which is great news. And he's doing well in the in the opening training sessions, which we just gently upping them. They're nowhere near as tense as what they would normally be, but is quite pleased with the lads. So I would say that in itself might result in us playing a little bit better on the pitch even than last year, and give a good feeling for Dewsbury. But if anybody's got any time and any expertise, I'll be more than welcome to bring them on our advisory board moving forward and steer the club a little bit better, maybe. Yeah.
Number 4 for you, Lee, is what are your long-term goals for the team?
Well, I think we should, the current guys, while there's promotion and relegation, we've got to aim for Super League. We've absolutely got to. Now, other clubs have obviously going for that now. We're not in a position to be even considering that. But when this year's done and it's promotion relegation hopefully stays, you're only ever one season away from Super League. If you're in League One, you're only ever 2 seasons away. And if anyone's not thinking about that when they're coaching a team, then for me, they shouldn't be involved. You got to be in a competition to win it, in my opinion. And yeah, that might seem unrealistic. And within that, we'll have certain goals that we want to achieve and stepping stones to get to that. But the plans, obviously, for this year were to do a bit better in the league. And we started to be well on course to do a lot better. That would have brought more financing than if the season had gone as normal, and we'd have just started building, and that is the plan. The plans have just been delayed a little bit. There's obviously uncertainty regarding funding after 2021, so we'll have to see what goes on there. But as the sort of funding as it was, that would have been the goal, to just build year on year, which means increased funding, and then it makes you a bit more competitive year on year to be competing around the top of the league, which is where I want us to be. We'll have to see how this funding is going to work. There's nothing been said to us at the moment. I don't know if Mark knows any more than that, but after 21 at the moment, there's nothing there. So we just have to wait and see on that. All we can do next year is play as well as we can, try and get as many wins and finish as high up in that table as possible, so that if there are any decisions regarding funding and your league position, or if the league wants to restructure itself, we're in the best position possible.
Mark, do you want to add anything on that? Or
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's happening from 22. The RFL don't know. Nobody knows at the moment. You'd like to think there was some money there, but there's probably going to be a substantial reduction. And as Lee's pointed out, we were quite a little bit unfortunate last season, because I think somebody reasonably minded, looking at the way we played this first number of games, including friendlies, would have thought Dewsbury were going to do a little bit better. I think that I was told that some of the press had actually said that it could be argued that our performances were the most surprising last season, and were certainly at a higher standard. And that's resulted in us going back to the previous year's distribution, where we finished in the last slot, staying up. So we're paid the smallest amount of money for teams what have been in the Championship before. And the way that we can get some more money is obviously finishing up a few slots. But we were obviously got a ground share with Bradford for this last season. And with the estimated income in from that, which in many respects was a great deal for both clubs, and other income streams we had in, we had actually been planning with Lee about spending the money well. But one thing will happen at Dewsbury, will continue to happen, is that we won't be paying over the odds for any players. So whether it's NRL Player of the Year or a young lad from an amateur side coming, he'd be paid a fair amount, but not silly money. We've always had a reputation of being fair, always paid the wages, never missed a payday in 20 years, and produced quite a number of players moving forward. But we were actually in the process, myself and Lee, of talking how we would frugally spend the money and bring in some players at hopefully an higher standard, which would move us up that division. So yeah, it's interesting times, but we've had plenty of challenges at Dewsbury before. We've come back from losing us ground, buying us ground back, buying the freehold as well, which many people don't know, but 6 years ago, the club bought the freehold for a substantial six-figure sum as well. And it isn't, you know, we're not really interested in putting his hands up and saying, me, we've done this, we've done that. We just get on with it. And I've always said I like to be judged on what we've done rather than what we're saying we're going to do. And we'll be in as best position as we possibly can this next 12 months. And we'll work hard to have ourselves in a position so that our club is here in 22, whether there's funding or not.
Yeah. Mark, question number 5 for yourself. Do you see the situation changing where the Rams are able to compete financially with top clubs in the Championship, funded through the many facilities we have at the ground?
Absolutely. The main aim is that any rugby club can't survive on rugby income only, and particularly clubs which haven't the biggest supporter base. We certainly haven't the smallest, but we haven't the biggest. And in terms of income coming in, whether it's from the pitches or from the subleases or from the car boot sale, any surplus will be used to invest in the playing squad. So outside our rugby income, that is a vehicle what we intend to be able to compete at a higher level. The majority of clubs, which we call the big clubs, the majority of those are funded by a more substantive supporter base. And even though we work hard at trying to get extra supporters in, we've got to be realistic, and we're not going to be up at that top end of the crowds. But at the same time, that is why over many years we've transformed the spare land round the ground to bring in income streams. Unfortunately, COVID hasn't recognised what amount of hard work we've put in there, and everything has literally been closed, and it's been difficult. But we've got some money in the bank. We have not drawn down the government loan through the RFL. We've applied for one, and there's some money waiting there, which is prudent, particularly on the rate of interest, which is negligible. That funds are available there should we need them, but we're not intending to fritter loans away on maybe getting that extra player or two just to push us up the league. We've got to earn our way up the league, and last year it was, for myself, it was certainly pleasing to see how well we played, beating teams we don't normally beat, and that being told by the hierarchy at Lee that we had given them the biggest test up till then. So it was, it gives you a boost and think it's all worthwhile.
Yeah. Lee, number 5. What's the most important things you look for in a new signing, and how much work do you put in, not only for their on-field efforts, but also what work do you put in to assess their potential, players' character and team ethics?
You get as much information as you possibly can. I mean, it's not easy sometimes. You've usually got someone within your own club, whether it's one of your staff or one of your players that have come across each player before, or they know someone that has. So they can give you a dead honest opinion then. And if it's someone they don't have a great view about, they obviously don't want them to be alongside them in training, if you know what I mean. I'm around them all the time. So you'll get a dead honest opinion then. So that can work both ways. That obviously works in the player's favour if they speak well of them. That means it's someone that person wants on board with us. So that usually speaks a lot. I watch a lot of video of that player. You get the highlights package sent to you, but I just sort of dismiss that straight away. What I like to do is watch full games and their efforts over a period of time as well. And you've just got to gather as much information as you possibly can. Sometimes there's other clubs wanting to speak to that player as well, so you don't want to ask that person who's involved with that club, because then you're sort of giving the game away a little bit. So there's a lot of work that goes in, because you want to bring the right type of person in. We don't want to spoil what we've built up here over the last 12 months. So It's got to be the right player without upsetting what we already have. But, you know, the right person, and that usually involves a bit of homework on them and me speaking to them on a few occasions and meeting them ideally as well. And like Mark said, we don't overspend and overpay on anybody. And the majority of players we do get could possibly get more money elsewhere if they wanted to do. But we like players that like what we're about. And when I show them around the ground, they see themselves being part of it. And we want players that want to improve and can see themselves getting better at Dewsbury. And that's what you're finding now when I look at a lot of the lads' quotes, when you've interviewed them about signing and re-signing, they enjoy it. And the new lads that have come in, once I've had a conversation with them and shown them round, they know what it's about, and they know what I'm about, and what they're going to do. They're going to come in and work hard, and that's what makes you a better player at the end of the day.
And on that, Lee, how long would you say in front do you look for a player? Like, for instance, do you go back and watch videos if they were playing in 2016 or earlier? You know, and how far ahead do you sort of plan in your head, you know, quite like this player or that player?
Planning ahead-wise, you try to look as best you can a season in front, but that's not always easy at our level. So many things change that it's not quite as easy as it is in Super League sometimes. They've got contracts and they look past when that guy's running out of contract. They're then looking for the next guy to come in.
Yeah.
A little bit different to ours. We sort of work more year to year. A lot of lads at this level and below are on 1 year contracts. So within that, you're looking at lads who impress early within that 1 year contract, and then you make a decision on whether you want to extend that deal or not. If you feel like there's someone who can do a better job than that from a different club and you've really got your eye on them, then obviously you look in a season advance and you try to get your negotiating done. But it's not always easy. I don't think we'll ever have a squad already sorted a year in advance. We'd always wait and players always become available. And I think even now we're in a good position where we've got a squad sorted, and if we're to play tomorrow and the season started tomorrow, we're strong. We feel like we've got a good 17 and a good squad available to us, but there's still room there within the squad and funds-wise for us to bring probably up to 3 more players, and if needs be, just replacing the ones that have gone. So we're in a good position. But yeah, going back to your question, as much homework as possibly can be done. You wouldn't tend to go back more than 2 years on looking at video, really, unless it's someone who's been out of the game or injured. You want it as current as you can have it. Obviously, this year's a little bit different because nobody's played it since March unless they're in Super League or NRL. So you're looking at the games they played at the start of this season, maybe, to see what the last performances were like. And that's all you can do. You just got to then, you're still making a judgment, and it's still always a risk still on any signing you bring in. You know, they might not play well in your system. They might not particularly play well in that position next to that certain person you had earmarked for them. There's always a slight risk. It's just making those risks as low as possible, really, when you bring them in. And I feel like we've done that with a lot of our players that we've brought in. For me, there's some exciting projects in there that I thought they were exciting anyway when we signed them, that no one had really thought of or heard of. But then seeing some of them in training, there could be some surprises there for myself and the supporters when game 1 comes round.
Good. Number 6 for you, Mark. Number 6. What is the current capacity of the stadium, and are developments at the ground now complete, or are there plans to increase it by building a stand at the Bywell Road end of the stadium?
It's 5214 is our crowd, 5,214 at the moment on our licence, which is more than enough for Dewsbury, and gives us the opportunity of other clubs possibly playing there or events being staged there. The developments aren't at an end, but I think it's fair to say that it isn't really a priority putting a stand at that end of the ground and using our funds up there. We've got more imminent battles deal with rather than building that stand. But the intention will be at the end of the day to complete that and have a proper four-sided stadium, and we will return to that hopefully sooner rather than later if things pick up with the economic climate. Just coming on to Lee and his recruitment of players. The truth is, he just looks in his little book and sees who played at Siddle all those years ago when he was there. It seems that a large percentage of the decent lads kicking about have been at Siddle sometimes. But what I would say on behalf of Lee and him coaching is that he said he wanted to virtually keep the whole squad if he could. And we had concerns there because we knew there was interest in 2 or 3 of our players. And I thought we might have a bit of a task ahead trying to recruit them at an affordable amount. And myself and Lee stepped up in a campaign of contacting each of the players and talking to them or what have you. I'll say that in all the years I've been at Dewsbury, I've never come across as easy a re-recruitment of players. And many of them agreed to take a contributory reduction in the pay next season just to make sure that the club was secure. And Lee and the players also agreed to use their training kit, which they'd used just for a few matches, and said, look, we'll keep this and let's free up that money there, all of which is going to be put back into the training budget. And I would just say that the relationship the club has over the years with the majority of clubs, some of which are Super League clubs, has made it quite easy in recruiting. Lee has targeted Reece Butterworth as a recruit a number of weeks ago when we knew that Dom would be stepping aside, at least in the foreseeable future. And it was made very easy with Richard Thewlis at Huddersfield doing a very fair agreement with Reece for him to step down in a few weeks' time from Huddersfield, and also being able to train with us at the moment and becoming our player for next season. And also the fact that Reece just wanted to sign with us. So even though there was interest from some other clubs, he just wanted to come to Dewsbury, and which is good news. You know that players want to come to Dewsbury, and we seem to have a very, very solid squad. But we do need to fill 1 or 2 other areas, and we may take loan players in. But there are funds there. There are funds there, and there's all the squad builder money for this last year, plus hopefully some donations next year. So Lee's got that as well. But what I would say is that Lee's determined to bring the right people in and not panic buying and then maybe regretting it later on. And we have got an eye on 2 or 3 decent players at the moment who will enter into negotiations in over the next few weeks, and there'll be hopefully 2 or 3 more new faces in the squad as well.
On that, Mark, I find that obviously quite interesting, the fact that me and Lee, when I've interviewed Lee or the players, they had such a good bond last season, and it's obviously gone into this start of the training for this season. Is that something you personally have seen as well? And with your discussions with the players, you know, have you got that feeling that it's quite a tight-knit sort of playing group, and you know they want to be at the club for the right reasons, really?
Absolutely. I myself don't really talk to many of the squad on a regular basis. I always try to keep arm's length because it's important that the players know that their boss is the head coach, Lee. And it's only really if the players got some issues, sometimes nothing to do with rugby league, while I'll have a discussion. But in my discussion with those that I spoke to, they just want to be at Dewsbury. They just wanted to be at Dewsbury, and there wasn't really much discussions with the finances. They obviously know it's very difficult times for everybody, and I would think that we were the first club to actually re-sign players moving forward, and it was an enjoyable task re-signing them, and I know that there's some players. We've got some obvious good players, and we've got some others who will soon become very good players. They've got a lot of potential, and when other clubs are talking, saying that what's the position with so and so, which has always happened in the years I've been at Dewsbury, and one or two moved on to other clubs eventually. I think people are beginning to acknowledge that the league's developed some talent there in some of the newer faces.
Lee, going on to number 6 for yourself. We've seen Sam Morehouse leave the club after only a few games when he wasn't able to stake a regular spot in the team. What were the reasons for his release, and has he signed for anyone else that you know
of? I'm not sure if he has at the moment. I was trying to get him somewhere, so I spoke to a few coaches on his behalf to try and get him sorted for next year. I'm not quite sure if he's taken one of them opportunities or not yet. Regarding Sam, he was one of the real fringe guys, came out of Leeds Academy the year before. A bit like Jordan Schofield we've signed this year, who's come from Wakefield. Sam came, big lad obviously, worked really hard in pre-season for his last pre-season, played in a couple of friendlies, and then played, I think, 1 or 2 for Coventry on dual edge and a couple in Hull KR reserve games. It was probably just a bit way off to play a championship at the moment. That's not to say he can't do that in the future. What I didn't want to do and what I don't want to do is keep players for more than 1 year if they're not really playing and figuring for us. I want to let them find their own way, and I don't want players to look back and think that I kept them for 3 years and played them about 2 or 3 times. I'd much rather them go to a different club and play, whether that's in the reserves or dropping down a division or going back to amateur game, to make sure they are playing at the appropriate level, because that's much better than training every week and not really playing. So you'll have seen that with a few people. Morgan Punchard, really nice lad, worked really hard, realised he was behind obviously 2 very experienced campaigners in Finney and Sykesy. That was also going to be the case next year. So me and Morgan had this discussion, and he's going to go back playing amateur to make sure he gets a full season at rugby. That's great. There's no hard feelings whatsoever from Morgan or myself. There's other players that had moved on themselves, realising that they need to move on to get game time. And Sam's similar to that. He knows if he stays, there's no reserves next year, there's no dual edge, so we would have struggled to get him game time. So, like I say, at this point, I don't know which opportunity he takes, if any, but I've helped him to try find a few, and I know there are a couple of clubs interested in him, so that'll be on him to take that. But yeah, that'll be the same with guys that have come this year. If there's some of the people that we've brought in don't figure for us next year, I certainly wouldn't keep them for the next year. That's not because they haven't got the potential or they're not talented enough, but I don't want to sort of stall or spoil someone's career by keeping them more than 1 season and not really playing. It's not right. I didn't like it as a player. If I was somewhere at a period of time and I wasn't playing, I wanted to move on, and I did that a couple of times in my career when I were on decent contracts as well, and I just left so that I played. So I want especially young lads to do that themselves. If they're struggling for game time at a club, they need to move on to try and get that somewhere else.
Number 7 for you, Mark. Are the Bulls planning to play at Dewsbury for 2021, either in Super League or the Championship, or are they definitely returning to Odsal for the start of the league season?
They initially got permission to play at Dewsbury for 12 months, and it could be extended in exceptional circumstances. But the intention is to return to Odsal, and Bradford, as it's been made clear in the press, are seeking to come to an accommodation with the RFL and the local authority in returning to Odsal. So the intention is they'll return to Odsal. When they get back there, hopefully it could be early on, could be as early as April. That would be a target date. So on that basis, from April, they certainly won't be playing at Dewsbury. They might play an odd match at Dewsbury before that, or may even play a match in the season, or some of their other teams might even decide to use Dewsbury if it suits Dewsbury, such as the ladies and other teams they have. We don't have a reserve side, but neither do the Bulls, because the reserve competition has unfortunately not on for anybody this year. And we were intending to have a reserve side this season as part of where Lee was going to spend his extra income. What I would say about Lee is that he wanted some of the money to be used for a reserve side, and even if that meant that he didn't have a larger budget than what he could for the first team. But the intention is that Bradford will be playing in Bradford next season, and within the next few days we've hopefully got a heads of terms agreement with the RFL to move forward for Bradford to return. But there'll be certainly, from my point of view, welcome to play some more matches at Dewsbury if they need to do so, which will bring welcome income in for Dewsbury, but also offer a home for Bradford.
Yeah. Number 7 for Lee. What would you say has been your most favourite moment as Rams head coach so far?
I think probably similar to the fans, really. Some of those wins where you're not quite expected to. The one at Widnes were a big one last year, just because of the manner of it as well, like last-minute drop goal, and just how we played in that game, Featherstone away. So some of those were good. It might sound a bit cheesy, but I liked when I first got announced and went into the fans forum. I didn't know what I was expecting when I joined Dewsbury, and just some of anything we've done, like the fans forums or anything like that. I was surprised how well attended they were, and actually how welcoming people were. To be honest, different clubs I've been at as a player, they're not as well attended as Dewsbury ones, and it just shows the sort of passion that people have and the willingness to turn up to events like that, and the real interest they show. So just moments like that, they've been really good to me of the Dewsbury supporters, even when it were a struggle in 2019. The majority of the ones I spoke to were all right behind what we're doing, and obviously that sort of proved fruition with the first couple of months of this season. But yeah, them obviously, everyone can see those big games where you're not quite expected to win and you pull them off. So they're always good. But last minute wins can't really be beaten, can they? As you saw on Friday night. So the Widnes one away last year were probably a good one, just because of how we won it.
I think, from my point of view, something that was special last season was when we beat Oldham, and literally the whole squad, subs, Chile, everybody just went over to that end where all the Dewsbury fans were. Then there might have been, I don't know, 100, 150 there, and literally everybody stayed on the pitch for about 5 minutes after the game. And I thought that was a really special moment last season. I don't know whether that's something, whether Mark you'd agree, or Lee, whether you'd agree with that.
It's because the changing rooms are so small, Steve, so everyone's wanted to stay on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Oldham display was to a very high standard. We just constantly played percentage rugby for the full 80, and we were just a little bit better than Oldham, which is good, because one of the issues Dewsbury's had in the past is that it's managed to survive in the division by beating some of the higher regarded clubs, and then the ones around us, like your Oldhams, struggling against them. But it was a very well organised and very enjoyable match, and up till then there was a big improvement, and the Rams supporters were wholeheartedly around supporting Lee when we finished in the last pitch for staying up in the Championship, and I think on the back of those performances earlier this season, I think there's been a lot of relief from the Dewsbury faithful, with Lee extending his contract for a further 2 years, and we haven't really had a chance. I haven't had a chance certainly to thank Lee for signing another 2-year contract up, and keep up the good work, Lee. Keep up that standard, and there's nothing better than for me to be mixing with players who want to be after matches, talking to them and whatnot, and they're not looking glum and not really wanting to be at the club. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing a match, because it's going to be best part of 12 months at best seeing a match. I think the last one I saw was up at when I went up to Newcastle to watch us there playing 3 or 4 days after the trip to Whitehaven. It just seems an age ago, doesn't it?
And we put some miles in that week as well. Oldham, Whitehaven, and Newcastle.
Yeah, correct.
All around the country.
Yeah.
Number 8 for you, Mark. Is anything planned for the slightly raised grassed parcel of land behind the 3G pitch? And will the outstanding general tidying up of the stadium be completed for 2021? I know you touched on that before, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, that grass. Well, this is another grass bank actually, Stephen. It's the one behind the 3G pitch, and part of some land in that car park to be used as a buffer zone between the houses which happen to be there in that area. But the rest is to be improved, and the house builders got a liability of clearing up some of that area and also improving the car park a little bit with the wear and tear with wagons going up and through. And then when in the cold light of day, we'll have a look how we can use that area, whether it's for a little bit more parking or for something else. But it isn't our fault, the tidying up required around there. But at the same time, we'll be certainly pleased when it is sorted out, which it should be before the beginning of the season, I would like to think.
Yeah. Number 8 for you, Lee. One thing that us fans have noticed last year is the close bond between the squad. How did you personally develop that?
I'm not sure. That's not an easy one for me to answer, really. I think just the type of lad probably we got in. To be honest, we didn't train any different or do much different to what we'd done the previous year. Maybe it were different type of guys who were sort of wanting to really improve, rather than just sort of being comfortable where they were. Maybe that were part of it. But I think regarding sort of getting the team together, we did as much as we could, social wise, over the last pre-season, which seemed to help. There's plenty of people around the club and sponsors and things that are willing to help out in different ways that we benefited from. We go for team meals on the road at the Royal Oak a few times, so we do that sort of every couple of weeks, which I know helped. But I think just where you get a bond with a group of rugby lads is just through working hard together. If you have 50% of lads working hard and 50% not, you don't get that bond, because they're looking around at each other. The lads that work hard are looking at the others thinking, you're not quite pulling your weight there, so how can I rely on you? And the guys that don't put the effort in are probably looking over their shoulder thinking, why are you trying so hard? And I've been in clubs like that and teams like that where you don't get everybody putting all the effort in, and you really, really struggle then to get a bond going. So I think where it differed last year was every single player put a shift in training. No ducking out of stuff. They did absolutely everything. And then I think that's why you saw then at the end of hard-fought victories against Halifax, Widnes and your Oldhams, just the lads covered in mud, freezing, but the first thing that I wanted with a red-hot shower, they were willing to go around the sort of fans and stay out for a while and just soak it up and enjoy it and enjoy each other's company. And I think that's what we'd sort of built. I've seen nothing to think that'll change. We've kept the vast majority of those lads anyway and just added to it. And the people that I've brought in, none of them are going to upset anything we'd built. I can assure you of that.
Number 9 for yourself, Mark. What's the current situation with Squad Builder? We haven't heard anything about it recently. What are the funds being used for? And do you think the club could actively promote it more and perhaps set up a separate committee to administer the account to make it more transparent for supporters?
Not a lot's happened with Squad Builder. I was just talking to Viv about the situation with it, and the money's in the account. Unfortunately, the reason why it's dropped off quite a bit is that the two biggest donators have both died over the last 2 or 3 years, and 1 or 2 other people have passed away as well. And the club was run by a Squad Builder committee, and the same applies there. That 2 or 3 fallen by the wayside, unfortunately, over the last year or two. What I would say is that before this season starts, I'll make a plea again to members of the squad builder if they want to go on the committee. In the past, I think a lot of people have been reluctant in doing it, and they've just asked the coach to decide where the money's spent. But it's in a separate account, and the money's just sat there. So I was talking to Lee about it recently, and pointed out that not only had he got what was left in his budget to spend, but he'd also got the squad builder money in reality for 2020 and 2021. So I would imagine that it might give Lee the opportunity to sign in a quality player with those funds, and we certainly need to refresh the committee. If anybody who's been, I think the only rule was that you had to be in squad builder for at least 3 months, and then you could choose to go on the committee. And I didn't sit on the squad builder committee. I would just act as a liaison between Lee and the committee, saying he'd like to sign this player and use the funds there. But it isn't for the club to promote squad builders. Squad builders are a donation to the club, and it's a separate entity. So I think what we need to do, we've kept his eye off the ball a little bit there, is to refresh the committee. If that's possible, the people will sit on it, and then they can have a go at promoting it to get extra members in there, because in this current climate, it certainly makes a difference.
Yeah. Number 9 for yourself, Lee. Being back in training, have you seen signs that the new players have fitted into this close squad bond well? I think you sort of answered that in the last one, but
yeah, it's obviously not the same as what we'd have liked to run it. We'd have liked to run it last year, where there's we're doing functions and social events and stuff, but obviously we can't do any of that at the moment. So it's literally, due to COVID restrictions, you come in and get out of there. So there's not much actual bonding time. But regarding the working hard, they've certainly fit straight into that. Because if you don't, you stand out in a bad way. If you come in and you don't want to work hard and put 100% in while you're with us, then, like I say, you're probably on your own a little bit, because the lads we have, they do that, they put the effort in, and that's what makes them tight-knit. So I've seen nothing from the new lads to think they won't be any different to that. A couple of lads might have come from different environments, so it might take them slightly longer to understand what we ask of them here. But like I say, from what I've seen so far, the new guys have fitted right in. They like it, which is good, because you actually get some players that don't like it, where you've got to try your hardest every time. Some lads don't like to train like that. They might just want to turn it on game day, but that's not how we run it at Dewsbury. We put a big emphasis on, from the first minute you join to the last minute you leave, you put 100% in, and then you get your rewards from that. And like I say, I think all the lads we've signed have bought into that straight away and are enjoying it. And like I touched on before, there's a couple of them who've, I won't say they've surprised me, but are showing up really well. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to put any pressure on them, and then or I'll look stupid if they don't come through. But a couple of them have shown up well. So hopefully that continues for the rest of pre-season, and then there could be a couple of surprise names on the team sheet come game 1.
Number 10 for yourself, Mark. Has the club formulated a plan for the safe return of fans in a way that ensures enjoyment of the game and maximises income streams?
Absolutely. I think if people look back 3 or 4 months, they'll have noticed that there were only 3 championship clubs in a position to move forward and play in the Autumn Cup, which it involves numerous visits from the council and the link with our backup staff in terms of physios and doctors and people who were dealing with COVID on a day-to-day basis. We were ready to play. We were ready to play in that Autumn Cup, and I know that Lee was really keen to play in that. And the only reason we were ready to play is that we'd all been signed off. We've got very, very strong COVID policies, and we were talking to how the terracing would be split up, how the south stand would be split up, on which seats we could use for getting fans back in. But unfortunately, for various reasons and understandable reasons, many clubs weren't in a position to return on the basis we were. And the fact that we weren't going to have enough teams to play in the competition. But I think Dewsbury, Batley and Bradford have been quite happy playing a round robin and sharing the prize money out between us, but others didn't think so. But yeah, we couldn't be more ready. We're back to training, maybe not as intense as what it normally is. But I said to Lee, you can start on from this date onwards, and he was poking his nose through the door that first day. Couldn't wait to get the lads back. And I think for his own well-being, as somebody who loves coaching and being involved in the sport, I think it's given Lee a bit of a lift, because it can just drive. You know, he'd be phoning up virtually every day saying any news, and I think it's made a big difference to Lee as well as the players. And I've already had one or two players on wondering if they can extend the contracts. So somebody likes you, Lee. Somebody likes you.
I'm not sure who that is.
Rolling on from that, Mark, what are the plans for season tickets for 2021? And when do you think prices will be announced and tickets will go on sale?
Well, I think we said to fans 2 or 3 months ago we're going to review it on 1st of December, which, believe it or not, is tomorrow already. Time just seems to fly. The days seem to drag, but then when you look back, you can't believe where the time's gone. So what we're looking to do is launch the season ticket over the next few days. And we're going to have an early bird offer, which, if like, we could call them the patrons. I'm calling the fans of patrons, those who have agreed to contribute a big percentage of the season ticket or all of the season ticket next year. We'll have an early bird for them, which they can buy a season ticket any time they want. There's no finish date on it or whatever. They can buy a ticket whenever they want. And those donations have made a hell of a difference for us being in a solid position and us being able to allocate as much as we can to the playing budget. There'll be also a early bird offer up to the 1st of January for people in general, those who aren't current season ticket holders, and new people who may wish to buy a season ticket. Priority will be given to the patrons in terms of returning to the ground and picking seats or whatever, if that's how it works. But what I would say to each and every person who buys a season ticket, it's massive to the club, getting that income in. And we will stream any matches which are behind closed doors, and any matches where there's a limit on the crowd, what might involve some or all of the season ticket holders not being able to attend. We will stream those matches, and that will be included in your season ticket. That gives you a bit of comfort that if you're buying a season ticket, you know that if matches are being played behind closed doors or not, you will be able to watch your team, and you'll be given priority for turning up. The first priority will be to the patrons, the second to anybody else who buys a season ticket. But what I would say is the likelihood is that all season ticket holders will be able to attend a match, even if there's limited crowds on the numbers of season ticket holders we've got. I think there's about 275 adult live season tickets at the moment, and you will have the opportunity of watching via streaming. We will pay for the streaming for each and every home match where it may be that a sector of our supporter base can't attend because of crowd limits, or it's behind closed doors. We're hoping, and the league is suggesting to us the first match is we're looking at Good Friday. We're hoping that things will be a lot more easygoing and you come and enjoy the match a lot more. But we will work as hard as possible to ensure that the ground is safe and that we can get as many people in as possible who want to watch Dewsbury.
And just on that, Mark, I suppose when we met the announcement of prices and etc., we'll be letting fans know how they can purchase these season tickets as well then.
Absolutely. I think it's worth mentioning that if people have a look, they'll see that we've got a big improvement in our website offer and how you can purchase things. And we've had a team of people working on that, volunteers, to really improve the offer and make us more ticket friendly. Because at the end of the day, it's likely, certainly in the first few matches, that we won't be able to accept cash, and you'll have to book in advance for your ticket to ensure the right amount of people are turning up. And people will make it clear how people can buy that or anything else. But at the end of the day, it's not for me to say you need to be doing this or you need to do that. Each individual person, as I've always said over the years, decides what they want to do or what they can do. And I'd really would like to thank people who've donated to the money to the club, because we have had very, very limited money over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And I can say that each and every penny will be invested, and that all gives an opportunity for strengthening the club. And what I would say is that we were going to have a reserve side this year, as I've just said before, and putting the club in a better position in future might put us in a better position to return into a reserve side. And the reason we did away with our second team reserve side, whatever you want to call it, was because other teams dropped out and we were left with no fixtures. Not that we wanted to save the money from having a reserve side. It's important that there's a strong competition there if we're to return to it. There's no point returning if there's only 3 or 4 clubs in it, which unfortunately the last year we were involved was the case.
Number 10 for you, Lee. Jack Howison has left the club, being replaced by Nathan Graham. Do their styles in coaching differ, and how?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've only been back a few weeks now, so I've only had a chance to work with Nathan for a few weeks in training. Obviously, we're a bit limited to what we can do. Some of the pre-season stuff we've been doing so far is a little bit structured, so there's not a lot of sort of, I won't say input, I'd probably say a lot of ideas that needed to come in just yet. But from the conversations I've had with Nathan and dealing so far, it will be slightly different to Jack. Certainly not in a negative way or a positive way. Jack was a really good coach, up-and-coming coach that took an opportunity at Ottawa that obviously hasn't worked out in the end, but we were fortunate enough to have a load of good applicants for the assistant role, and I picked Nathan from those. Nathan's obviously a coach at Scotland, so it's a really good sort of coup for us to get a club legend back and an international coach as our assistant coach. That's great for us. So I can already tell within a few weeks he's itching to sort of put his own stamp on things, and I'm fortunate in that respect that I've got Sykesy, Nathan and Paul Mennell has just been announced as well as part of our staff. You can trust them with pretty much anything, whether it's just relaying my ideas or putting their own stamp on things. And obviously that'll come to fruition the longer we go along. But we're really pleased with how we've started pre-season and how those three have had an input. I think they'll be the first to admit that the lads make it easier for you because they just put the effort in. So there's no banging your head against a brick wall, convincing people to try hard. That's already there. So you can focus on the coaching element of it then. And I'm sure going forward, Nathan will prove to be a great addition.
Number 12 for you, Mark. Do you have any plans to reward those season ticket holders who in effect donated the cost of the season tickets to the club, with some other clubs being creative at doing this at no additional cost to the club? I think sort of in your last answer you mentioned.
Yeah, I think we covered one or two things there where we're doing an early bird up, and any time any of the if we just call them patron season ticket holders want to renew, there's that there, and we are looking at other things. We're trying to do priority booking for seats and things such as that, and there may well be would have probably under normal circumstances been able to have events where they might be able to come to an event just to recognise that donation they're given. I mean, what I would say with other season ticket holders, I appreciate that some of the season ticket holders were hardly in a position to make a donation because of their own circumstances, and all season ticket holders are valued. But at the same time, I think we just need to go that extra yard with the people who've put some money, just made a donation back to the club, who could have easily asked for their refund too. But all season ticket holders are valued. But I think we'll look at coming up with one or two events and what have you. But as hands are just literally tied behind his back at the moment, we can't even use the stadia for anything really at the moment. And I've been on just today. I've been on with the local authority with 2 or 3 different calls, looking at ways we can move things forward, whether it be the car boot sale, the all-weather pitches, or the stadium itself. It's certainly a daily battle in bringing things back to life, but we'll get it sorted. And we'll look for things.
Number 11 for you, Lee. We seem to pretty much have 2 players for every position. Was that always the plan?
Not initially. I think if you looked at the squad for 2020, it probably looked small on first glance. And once the season got going, you sort of narrowed it down to a 17, probably 18, with a few fringe guys who maybe had potential going forward. If the COVID hadn't come along and no dual reg for next year, then I might have stuck with that and sort of tighten it, smaller group. But obviously, with how things have gone this year, looking at the amount of injuries that you can pick up, and with people having to isolate and catching COVID, which could still run into when we start our season in March, April, whenever, then that sort of forced people's hands a little bit. I've seen a lot of clubs announcing a lot of players that, and knowing them, those coaches and those clubs wouldn't normally do that, but they're planning for sort of what could be ahead and what could come. Not only that, we've not played since March, and at the moment there's no sign of a friendly. We can't plan much in regard of any games yet. So what you do in training is going to be quite important. So what I've looked to try to do is get enough numbers within the squad, either contracted, on loan, or on trial even, so that we can do plenty of opposed sessions in training between ourselves, and that's what we've been able to do so far. So in some positions, there's some real competition there. I mean, just coming at the top of my head there were Reece Chapman-Smith coming in to compete with Joe at fullback. From what we've seen with Reece already and what I knew about him before, that could be a real battle, really, just to get in the team to begin with and take the sort of fullback shirt. Wings, you're looking at 4 quality wingers now that we've got. So there's a real battle on people's hands there. Joe Wardle, Bailey Liu have shown it well already in training, which puts pressure on Adam Ryder, Matt Fleming and the back rowers. So there's already some good competition there. It wasn't my initial plan, like I said, to have so many, but with just how things have gone, I think it was more necessity to do that. And just the pure amount of players that are available, with reserve grade going and people trimming squads above us, there's just been a lot of players available. Whereas normally you wouldn't either be able to get them because they'd still be at that Super League club. There's a lot of players who just want to stay in the game. They're not really after big money. They just want opportunities. And I think us, along with quite a few clubs in the Championship and League One, are willing to give players that opportunity. It helps them to try stay in the game and make their way in the game. But it also helps us numbers-wise to feel a bit more comfortable that, you know, if on any given occasion we're missing 6 players through injury or isolating or something, we've still got good quality and good numbers there. So that's where we're at. There are still plans to bring two, maybe even 3 more in certain positions, and then there really will be then like real good competition in all the positions then.
Number 13 for you, Mark. Is the club releasing a new playing kit this season and a new range of leisure wear for 2021?
No. We've only had an opportunity really to wear the other new kit for a few matches, and fans, I think, have got enough issues in dealing with without having to see if they can afford a new strip. So we're actually talking, and you'll know, Stephen, we're talking with the kit provider to bring little bits and bobs out and top up the offer we've got at the moment, but moving towards some new leisure wear and a new strip, hopefully for 22, on the back of the fact that we'll have a new TV deal. And I just don't think it's appropriate or sensible for the club either to be buying minimum order strip, and when we've already got a number of quite a number of shirts still left, and the fans having very little opportunity using them. So no, we're going to step aside from what we normally do for 12 months and give everybody a breather.
One thing that we did bring out, Mark, was the face coverings, obviously, which I think went down pretty well within the online shop. A lot of orders were made. Yeah.
I mean, on the back of COVID, that's one positive. Yeah, that we've made a nice little amount of money out of selling those face masks. And I've bought 3 or 4. I only use one, but I've lost the other 2 or 3. I don't. Just hopeless.
Okay, number 12 for Lee. Do you expect we can again surprise a few teams like last season in Halifax and Widnes?
No, purely because it won't particularly be a surprise now. We've done it this year, so it's going to be harder to beat those teams because the surprise element's gone. That means we need to probably be a little bit better in doing that. But in that respect, I've never wanted us to really be that team that surprise. I want to go and actually compete on a level with these. Yes, we can't do much about the budget and what other clubs are signing, but when it gets to that game day, I want us to go in and knowing that if we play our best game, we'll win. Not going in thinking, right, we need to be our absolute best and they need to be off it for us to win. For what it's worth, I don't think Halifax or Widnes were totally off it. I think we were as better on those days, but I don't want it to be a surprise. I want me, the players, the staff, and all the fans to go to a game expecting us to win every single game we go into next year. Like I say, I don't think now playing some of these teams, Featherstone's who we'd beaten the previous season, Bradford who we beat in pre-season, Halifax, Widnes, there's no surprise element now. They know what a tough team that we are to beat, and that's just up to us then to put our absolute best foot forward. And like I said before we kick this season off, just hope that teams have to be at their absolute best to beat us, and the teams that did, which were Lee, had to really, really play well in that game to beat us. And to be fair, Newcastle certainly deserved to win in that one. We can talk about the travelling and that and the 3 games in a week, but they needed to play well to beat us that day, even after all that travel and disruption. So, like I said, the games we lost, that were the other teams. It wasn't us particularly losing them. It was the other team just being better on the day. And if we put a full season together like that, we won't be far off.
Mark, number 14 for you, I think we've sort of already touched on. Are there any plans to run a reserve team in the foreseeable future?
There isn't a reserve league at the moment, so the obvious answer is no. And I think we've already highlighted that we think it's in the interests of the club to have a reserve side, should we have the opportunity to do so, yeah.
Yeah. Number 15 for you, Mark. What are your plans to engage the local community more, in particular to build partnerships under the wings of the Rams with the local amateur clubs in the area?
Well, we have a link with the local clubs. Maybe it could be better, but I certainly think that Rampage Club, which you spearhead, Stevens, made a difference with some of those clubs, hasn't it? And linking up. And earlier this year, I did the Player of the Year and Young Players Awards for Shawcross. Got involved there and made the presentation just before lockdown. So we are engaged with the local community, and I think if anything, the press newspaper in temporary suspension and a lack of press coverage doesn't help our case. I think that is an issue holding the club back a little bit. because if you look at Bradford, as I'm sure you don't want me talking any more about Bradford, but Bradford's local paper, the TNA, are literally on every other day asking for print really for the newspaper and whatnot. And I think that if anything, we're hindered a little bit in getting that out there in the press and what have you about what we do with the local clubs and whatnot. And I know Lee's keen to increase that moving along, and with all sorts of ideas, including for this year, including coaching sessions with coaches from the amateur sides, and even having a run out for some players that Lee and his coaching staff had made themselves available. And I think if anything, we're guilty of not portraying that more favourably for our club.
I think one thing that we will look to do as well is that if a local club has any events going on, they want to for us to try and get our supporters to go along to these events, we'd be always happy to promote their events off of our website as well. That's something we did.
That is absolutely true. And what you'll find with the staff at the Rams, playing staff, or people like yourself, Stephen, in the office backing up the playing staff, is that people are willing to give up their own time to interact with community clubs and things such as that, because the most important thing is the game itself, and we need not only to keep other clubs going, so with somebody to play, but we also need to keep looking back at those who are below us, in the amateur game. And any help we can give, or anything which promotes the club, can be only good news.
One more for you, Mark, before we go back to Lee. Number 16. In 2023, it will be 50 years since the club won the championship. Are there any plans to commemorate this anniversary? And what do you think about creating some form of memorial museum to showcase our long history somewhere within the ground itself?
I mean, we've obviously got some plaques up and photos of players within the ground, and also a little bit of a cabinet in the office. But we could certainly do more. And with the Rugby League Museum being back in Huddersfield, there's a lot of interest in promoting rugby itself within Kirklees, and I think we can always do a little bit more. But we're certainly doing something for the anniversary, as we've done in past anniversaries. And it's so important to look back there. What a victory that was! A true underdog, coming from the worst position in the league, winning match after match to be crowned as champions. So we certainly don't want to be forgetting about that.
And I'd say it was fantastic the other season to have the head coach at that time, Tommy Smales, come along and collect his his award as well. I thought that was a really good touch that we did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we've gone out of us way really over the past few years, always to tap ourselves on the shoulder and remember about 73, which is a very proud day for the club, and with a number of season ticket holders who were there. It just seems not that long ago, but yeah, moving towards 50 years, unbelievable.
Number 13 for you, Lee. What's your thoughts on the rest of the teams and how they have recruited? How much harder will the league be this time around?
I think it will be. Overall, you've got the teams who got promoted. They've managed to obviously stay in for another year with championship distribution. They've clearly gone out and strengthened. I think what you found also is a couple of clubs who maybe didn't start as well as what they thought have probably gone and looked at changing that quite quickly. We obviously were happy with how we started, and we've just our intent was to keep the same squad basically, bar one or two who were just outside the 17, whereas others have totally revamped, and it'll remain to be seen whether that actually strengthens them or not. But certainly on paper, I can't think of a team that's actually weaker, if I'm being honest. A lot of the teams looks like they've spent and and tried to strengthen in areas that they'd already seen they needed to strengthen in. It was almost a clean slate for some, I suppose, to lose players and bring others in, and that's what some look like they've done. But again, it all remains to be seen on the pitch. This is something that's never happened before, where your season gets written off in March and has left all players at this level without a game for going on 12 months by the time it comes round again. So how players will react to that, I'm not sure. Pre-seasons are going to be important in what you do and how the lads look after themselves. But as we've seen, a couple of lads have chosen to sort of retire, and they're only in the mid-20s, going on work commitments. You know, I think a lot of people have probably reflected this year and seen how important things outside of rugby are maybe, and how much, you know, financial elements come into play and family security. And I think there might be more players like that. I've seen a few retire who you thought could definitely play on. So there's all sorts going through, you know, people's minds, not just in rugby, but across the whole world. And rugby players are no different. But certainly on paper, I think every single club looks stronger. We're obviously losing one going up to Super League, but we're going to gain one from coming up from League One. And the applicants that are trying to get promotion to Championship are all strong. They've all got decent finance behind them and want to aspire to not only Championship, but Super League, I think, some of those. So it is going to be tough, but we want to be in that. You don't want it easy. You want a tough league to make sure you're right on it every single week. And I certainly enjoy competing against all these guys. There's some well-known, famous coaches in this division, famous clubs, big players who have played at top level as well. And that's what we want to compete against, and I'm no different.
Marketing, do you want to add anything to that on how you've seen other teams sort of recruit, or the sort of one up from the League One situation?
Yeah, I think Lee hit the nail on the head. A few of the teams which were coming up a little bit short early in the season have had a chance of a re-rack really, and a second go at it. But I'd like to think that the supporter base at Dewsbury recognise the importance of us keeping our players because they've done so well, and I think we've certainly a little bit of comfort there in seeing how they played last season. Hope they can do a little bit better. But yeah, I don't think there's any pushovers in this division at all. I mean, when we played Oldham, we obviously won by a good few points, but I think in seeing Oldham there, they were certainly competitive last season, and the teams which were expected to finish at the bottom of the league certainly weren't pushovers. And I think it's even more competitive this season, and there are some big name players within the Championship this season to look forward to playing. But I'm certainly reasonably confident we're going to do okay this season. You can never be overconfident because you never know what's going to happen. And I'm really looking forward to playing some of these matches. And the sooner people can get back and watch those matches, I think the better for all our well-beings, to be honest.
Yeah. Number 17 for you, Mark. When the game returns to normal, would the club consider some form of memorial to the players, officials and supporters who have sadly lost their lives during this pandemic, some of whom will have had a close affinity to the club and for who it will be nice to celebrate their past life and remember them?
Absolutely, and I'm sure the majority of people know, in the case of Jack, who was a servant of Dewsbury for virtually all his life, there's been a statue bust being made by a top artist, where there was a substantial amount of money contributed from past friends, acquaintances, players who considered themselves as friends for Jack. And it was just unfortunate that Jack passed away during this period, because I'm sure people could have got back together and remembered Jack. But I think we certainly will put something on then when we're in a position to do so. Absolutely.
Yeah. Number 18 for you, Matt. Does the club have any interest in supporting the idea of themed rounds in the league programme, which appears to be very popular in Australia?
Yeah, if there was a proposal to do that, I can't see a problem with that. It really, people really buy into those themed rounds, and it could certainly encourage some supporters who maybe have only watched an odd match or two. So I don't think we'd be against it. I don't know what Lee thinks about that, but anything to get people in supporting rugby and make rugby stronger, and also help the finances for clubs, is I just can't see an issue with that. If it was to be proposed at a championship forum, I would imagine we'll be supporting it, won't we, Lee?
Absolutely, yeah. I think probably a bit of joined up thinking from all the clubs buying into something. But if it comes directed from Super League or the RFL and it's across the game full round, there's no reason why all levels of the game can't all buy into it. And that can be juniors, community, all the way up through the leagues. I think the rugby league in this country is, we all say it's sort of a small family, but the way it all comes together to support stuff, I think that would be an absolute winner if there were a few of those this season.
And just a final sort of question for you both, really, is once we get back to some sort of normality, would we be able to have a fans forum come meet the players event at the ground?
Absolutely. As people know, we've always had at least one fans forum every year, and it's always interesting to interact with the fans and whatnot, and I think fans enjoy it. And the reason that we've left this podcast so long is there'd been little twinkles of light suggesting that we might be able to have a forum and interact with the fans. And like Lee pointed out before, they're always well attended. And the till rings behind the bar as well, merrily, which is always a nice sound for my ears. And it'd be nice to re-meet with people. I've spoken to one or two on the phone and bumped into one or two over the last few months, but it'd be good to get back to normality, and be more than happy having a fans forum, as people know I'm there and I'm willing to answer questions and interact with whoever, that I'd like to think I'm just part of the supporter base of the club.
Lee?
Yeah, well, obviously I don't mind waffling along and talking rubbish or whatever, so I'm happy answering any questions. And like I said before, I like the forums and I like the some of the comedy questions that get thrown my way, so I don't mind answering any of them. And the supporters are always welcoming. We have a bit of banter between each other and we seem to get along quite well, so I've no issue with doing any forums. But the kit launch is good. It gives me a chance to take the mick out of players a little bit and everyone laughs at them. So it's all they're all good fun. So if we can get one of those in before the season starts, that'd be great.
Just before we wrap up then, guys, is there anything else that you sort of want to say, or sort of last comments?
I'd just like to say thank you for everyone who's put the questions in, and also an apology for those what we haven't been able to answer, because there's quite a substantive response, and quite a number of questions were very similar to each other. So I apologise if you don't feel we've answered everything. But let's keep positive. We're going to launch the season tickets over the next few days, and sorry we can't pinpoint any other events for obvious reasons, but we're hoping to get back playing competitive matches from Good Friday. And if we have an opportunity to play matches before, friendlies, whether that's with the Hull Kingston Rovers, who we're intending to dual reg with, or with any other clubs. I know Lee's keen to play a couple of matches. If it's possible, we will do. Let's just hope this COVID clears off as soon as possible, so we're in a position to do that. But I think the most important thing is that keep yourself safe, everybody, and let's hope that we can all return healthy as soon as possible to a sport that everybody, I'm sure, plays a big part in their life. Thank you, everybody.
Lee, anything else from you?
Yeah, I think just we don't go shouting from rooftops a lot of the things that we're doing. There's a lot of good things that happen at the club that we could probably promote better and maybe market, but there's others that we don't want to market too much, and we want to just get on with doing things well without having to tell everybody we're doing it well. And that's certainly for me the case on the rugby side of it. I think we just crack on. we've been back in training a few weeks now. It's the safest probably anyone could possibly be regarding professional training. We've got our own facilities, our own ground. We've had no outbreaks, and touch wood, we won't have any outbreaks of COVID at our spot. Everything's done really safely. Well, like I say, we haven't promoted that. We just get on with it, and the lads are enjoying it. The coaching staff are certainly enjoying being back in, and hopefully that translates to another good start in 2021. Of course, we want supporters back involved as soon as possible, whether that's forums, kit launches, watching us play a friendly. And then obviously once the season starts, that's what we do it for, or else we'd all just be playing at our amateur clubs. The reason we want to be involved in the professional game is the supporters coming to watch, doing it for them, making sure that as players and coaches we're doing it to the best of our ability and try to be the best that we can be. And that's what we want to carry on doing. This year's just sort of delayed progress, that's all I'd say. And hopefully if we can start off where we left it back in March, April, whenever we played our last game, then we're in a good spot. We're in a better spot than most. Like I say, we just don't go shouting about it as much as maybe others do. But I can assure everyone that there's plenty of hard work that goes on behind the scenes, and there's plenty to be confident about.
Well, thanks very much, Mark and Lee, for joining us. And we'll obviously be putting out more information in the coming weeks, days, months about things that are going to be happening at the club. So keep a check out on the website and social media accounts for that information. Thanks again.
Thank you, Stephen.